For all have sinned. We don't make much of sin today. We must. We cannot understand the gospel of Jesus Christ apart from understanding the meaning of this passage. To sin means to miss the mark, to be dislocated, to not hit the blank. It is a terrible thing when you think about against whom we have sinned. The Puritans used to say something like this: you have not sinned against some small mayor of a tiny village. And I would say you have not sinned against some meaningless bureaucrat. You have sinned, when you sinned, against the God of glory, whose greatness and goodness and glory and love proves that He is deserving of absolute perfect reverence and obedience. But all men, including myself, including you, have turned away from that. Now let me give you an illustration. On the day of creation, God tells the sun to put itself in a certain place, and it bows and obeys Him. He tells the stars to find their place, the place He's marked out for them in heaven, and they obey Him. He tells the planets to march in the order that He gives them, and they obey Him. He tells the mountains to be lifted up, the valleys to be cast down, and they obey. He tells the great seas, you will come to this border and you will come no further, and they obey. And then He looks at you and says, come, and you say, no. Our sin is so horrible that I want you to know this. All of creation stands as a witness that we are worthy to be condemned. Now, I know that's not heard much in our modern times, but it is true. And until you understand the depth of the sin of man, you cannot understand the glory of God in the gospel. Let me give you an example. Where did all the stars go this afternoon? You couldn't see them because there was so much light. You could not see their glory. You could not even find them. But when the pitch black darkness of the sky appeared, the stars came out in the fullness of their glory. In the same way, we cannot understand the glory of the gospel of Jesus Christ until it is set against the pitch blackness of our own sin. Some might die for a good man. Someone might die for a righteous man. But Christ died for us while we were sinners. And in that there is much glory. He came for us not because of us, but in spite of us. And the more we see that, the more we will love Him. Do you remember what Jesus said about the sinful woman? She loves much. Why does she love Him much? Because she's been forgiven much. I would submit to you that we do not love Christ as much as we should because we do not realize how much we have been forgiven, and we do not realize how much we have been forgiven because we refuse to open the dark veil and look at the sinfulness of man. Because the more we see the profound depravity of our own selves and our people and our society, the more we glory with amazement at what God has done for us in Jesus Christ. Looking at the sin of man is not an end in itself. That would just lead us to despair. But we look at our sin so that it might lead us to Him. Paul says that's the purpose of the law, isn't it? The law was never given to save us. Never. It was given to show us our sin so that we would realize we cannot save ourselves and we would run to Christ. That's a very important thing. Very important thing. For all have sinned. And that does not mean, my friend, that every person prior to coming to Christ is basically a good person, but every once in a while slips up. It means that all a man does prior to coming to Christ is sin.